Welcome to the Energy Masterclass. This is exciting. So if you are watching this on the replay, then I have started this masterclass a couple of minutes early just to give people time to come and find it. So if you are watching this on the replay, then feel free to skip ahead by approximately 4 minutes because it's about 5 minutes to 8 now. So I will get started in about 4 to 5 minutes. So feel free to skip on ahead with that. And we're going to get started with the Energy Masterclass. I'm excited. This is going to be awesome. Sorry, there's some funny noises going on in the background. Brilliant. And if you are here live, which I'm not sure if people will be yet, but if there is anyone here live, then do let me know that you are here. I'm just going to make sure that everyone has been approved into the group. And then we are going to get started super duper soon. Just want to check that everything is working. Not quite sure what's happening with my hairband. We'll see. Yes, as far as I can see, things are working. Okay, wonderful. Just going to check all the other technical stuff is good. Okay, right. I think we can see and hear me. If you are joining me here live, I just hopped on a couple of minutes early. Don't worry, you've not missed anything. Don't panic. I just want to hop on to check all the technical stuff is working. So if you are here live, let me know in the comments underneath that you can see and hear me. That's always a pretty important thing. Otherwise, I could just be talking to myself. That did actually happen. I run a group coaching program called Nourish. Oh, hi, Strom. I'm going to really murder your name. Apologies. People always say my name wrong, and I hate it when I get other people's name. Zombati. I'm not saying that right. Apologies. But yay, I'm so glad you're here. I can see a couple more people slowly joining us. If you are here, let me know in the comments below so that I know people can see and hear me. Oh, hi, Karen. Hi. I was going to say I run a group coaching program called Nourish, and I was doing like a thing like this with it. And for like 10 minutes, for some reason, the comments weren't working. For 10 minutes, I was just talking and teaching and doing all the things and had absolutely no idea that no one could hear me. For 10 minutes. It was slightly mortifying. Everyone was in the comment section being like, what are you saying? We can't hear you. The sound's suddenly gone off. Anyway, so I do not want that to happen. So let me know if you are here live that everything, but according to so far, it sounds like we are all good. Okay, so I'm going to literally give it like another minute, a minute and a half, and then we are going to get started in the Energy Masterclass because I have got a lot of awesome information to share with you. There is just a whole lot of good stuff that we've got to get through that's going to really help and equip you with the things that you need to live the life you want to live and get your energy back and understand more of what's going on with your thyroid and understand all of that sort of stuff. So really, really important. We are going to get started. I just want to give everyone the time that they need to do all the things. Okay. Right. It is 8 o'clock. I'm excited. This is going to be awesome. Let's get this ball around. Hi, Rianne. Hi. Fabulous. I know more people will join us as kind of time goes on. I'm just going to check that everything is all fine actually as well. Okay, great. Sorry, I just had a couple of technical things pop up. It's 8 o'clock. So let's get started. I love it that all you guys were here early and on time. I know some more people will join us as time goes on. And I also know some people can't make tonight and they'll be watching this on the replay. So I will be addressing their questions and things then. Fab. Welcome to the Energy Masterclass. I don't know why I feel like I want to say that with an American accent, but I do. It makes it sound like more Hollywood. So what I'm going to do is, here we go. Okay, right. Here we go. Sorry, I just had another thing pop up. The Energy Masterclass. That is what we're going to be looking at today. And we are going to be looking at the 3 steps to naturally supporting your thyroid and getting your energy back. So we're going to be looking a lot at why are you tired and what the heck can you do about it? Because I have to say, I feel like nearly every client I work with and probably every person I talk to tells me that they're tired and they're feeling exhausted and they don't really know why. And it's kind of just become like normal. Like it's just become our normal. Everyone's tired, everyone's exhausted, and there's just this level of, well, yeah, that's just the way it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. Also for women, I find I've got a lot of clients that have been really fatigued and tired for a really long time, and it's like they've just been completely fobbed off and told, oh, it's because you're getting older, it's because you've had babies, it's because, like, all of these different because, and I am just a little bit like, no, sorry, that is, no. That if you are fatigued, yeah, you might have a small baby, and yeah, that can make you tired and all of those different things, but ultimately, if you are fatigued for a long period of time, there will be a reason for that. And we often, just can feel like we're getting a little bit fobbed off, I find. I'm not going to go and rant about it, but you'll hear from this workshop. Okay, so what we're going to be covering. We're going to be looking at why you might be tired and what on earth your thyroid has to do with it. So you might be here and you're like, thyroid, Kezia? What on earth is that? Don't worry, I'm going to explain it. Or you might be sitting here and you know you've got a thyroid issue. You know you're hyperactive, hypoactive. You know you've got elevated antibodies. Or you maybe have a sister who's hypothyroid, a mum who's had thyroid issues, or whatever it is, and you know that it's kind of in your family. If that's you, then you are in the right place, 100%. So we're going to be looking at how you can, oh, hi Danny, hi Jane, oh, hi Shirley, oh, I was just chatting to Shirley, hi Shirley. You can, what is going on with your thyroid and what you can do. We're going to be talking about the symptoms of thyroid issues, and then we're going to be looking at what to do. And these 3 foundations, these 3 steps that I'm going to be covering will really apply to you even if you don't have a thyroid issue. If you just want to get your energy back and improve your energy naturally, these 3 foundations are going to make a difference. And then I'm going to look through some case studies of different clients just so you can see what this can look like in people. And then I'm going to go through the Q&A time. We're going to do Q&A. Oh, and I also have a little giveaway as well. So I'm going to be doing a free giveaway, and then we're going to be doing Q&A. So who is ready for more energy? If you're ready for more energy, put your favorite emoji in the comments, or your most used emoji. It might not be your favorite, but it might be your most used. If you're ready for more energy, in the comments, put your favorite or most well used emoji. I also realized just before I got into this call that my nails are a disaster. I was going to paint my nails for you guys. I was, but they are not good. I feel like I have to confess that while you get commenting. But throughout this workshop, I'm going to be asking you a couple of different questions, and the comments underneath is the place where you can use it. Rihanna, I love your most, actually that is one of my most used, that I feel like is definitely one of my most used emojis. What does that say about me? Excuse me. So let's get started. Now, I know that the people joining me here live, I know the majority of you probably know who I am, but if you don't know who I am, and maybe this is the first time you saw this on Instagram or on Facebook and you're like, I'll give this Energy Masterclass a shot. Hello, I'm really glad that you found me. I'm Kezia Hall, probably should have said that from the start. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I'm based in Scotland, and I help women who are fed up, are feeling fatigued and tired and bloated, and I help them to use nutrition and make different lifestyle changes so that they can feel good in their clothes, fix their digestion, get their energy back, so that they can get on with living the rest of their lives. I run a blog, I have a podcast. If you go to keziahall.com, you can find out all the things about me. write for different places, record for different places. My qualifications are, I got diplomas in, initially I was originally an artist, retrained in like sports nutrition and holistic nutrition and life coaching, and then I went back to uni to get more in-depth training, which was my postgraduate in nutritional science and practice, and working more clinically and getting that assessed and blah, 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 blah. So I really have a holistic approach, hence holistic nutritionist, and also a functional medicine approach, which is kind of a holistic approach, but I won't go into detail of what that is. You can always Google what is functional medicine, but that is the framework we use. And the reason that I'm so passionate about this topic and about energy is that I feel like, honestly, I've been tired most of my life. Like I don't have memories of me as like a sprightly young child being like, Energizer Bunny. I have had health issues from as young as I can remember, and that has come with kind of fatigue, and that it only got worse as I got older and became an adult. I've also spent a lot of time on the toilet. I've had a lot of digestive issues, skin issues, mental health issues, and I've basically been exhausted, depressed, and stuck on the loo for far more of my life than I would have liked to have been. And that's kind of why I ended up retraining. I was working as an artist. That was my original undergraduate degree. And then just had my own health journey, again, which you can read about more on the blog, but my own health journey of just being so embarrassed by my health, chronic diarrhea, feeling depressed, anxious all the time, panicking, hormonal imbalances, thrush, going to the doctors, getting all the tests, being told everything was normal, but not feeling normal, not feeling like I just remember getting to that point where I was like, is this how the rest of my life is going to feel? Like, is this feeling, this being stuck on the toilet, this being like, pooping myself because my diarrhea was so bad, the pain in my stomach, the tiredness, the heaviness of my joints, feeling like I was wading through treacle, it's like, as like 23-year-old being like, is this just what every day of my life is going to be like in terms of my experience? And I was like, no way. There is no way that I want to experience this level of discomfort, exhaustion, and pain for the rest of my life. And that's kind of how I ended up retraining and figuring it out. And still, I'm constantly learning. Total geek. So the different symptoms I had, there was the daily diarrhea, there was incontinence, there was thrush, there was depression, there was I felt scared to eat out, confused and overwhelmed. I would Google things and be like, I need to order some B12, or I should get some probiotics, and I should do this, and just feeling totally overwhelmed by it. And then when it comes to my thyroid, a lot of stuff around like my hormones, like my sex hormones and mental health and digestion did really improve, but it was around probably not that long ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, when I was feeling a lot better. My poop was more normal, my energy was a little bit better, but I hit these following symptoms of sore joints. I had really bad flare-ups of fatigue, like crash and burn. Like I might be okay one day and then the next day would crash and burn and have absolutely no idea why. And my anxiety increased again, even though I'd made so much improvement, it kind of flared up. The hair on my eyebrows was thinning. I was really cold. I was getting like these heart palpitations. My period cycle was not irregular. It was really short. It wasn't healthy. I was started to get constipated. I'd never been constipated before in my life. I'd always struggled with diarrhea. When I exercised, it was like absolutely exhausting me. I was not recovering from exercise very well at all. And by this point, I knew what it could be. So by this point, I think I'd done my initial kind of retraining. I hadn't gone back to uni yet, but I'd learned a lot of information. I'd done a lot of research, changed my health, worked with clients already. And so I knew thyroid issues ran in my family. My sister has hypothyroidism. I'm pretty sure my mum has a thyroid issue as well, although that's not been diagnosed. So I went straight to the doctor. I was refused testing. So I went privately. My antibodies were slightly elevated, but there was no formal diagnosis because it wasn't extreme as they would expect. But from my perspective, I think I just caught it early. And since then, I have been super mindful of supporting my thyroid and have helped, I don't know, probably a good 30, 40, maybe 50 women do the same in different contexts in terms of supporting their thyroid. Probably more than that, actually. I should really sit down and think about it. But whether you are hypothyroidism, whether you have Hashimoto's, this autoimmune component, and your antibodies are elevated, whether you not sure but you think you might, or whether you're like me, you catch it right at those earlier stages, there is so much you can do and so much you can do to support it. So, oh gosh, it all went quick. So now I'm the healthiest I've been. I'm by no means perfect. I was sick at the weekend because I had a week of solo parenting when my other half was away for work in New York. It was like hard times for a whole week, and I was working, and my son didn't sleep very much, and he was teething, and I was on my own, so I got sick at the weekend. But I am right now the healthiest I have ever been. No IBS. I don't have bowel issues unless, I don't know, I'm in Morocco and eat something dodgy. I don't have like crazy abnormal fatigue. I'm still working on my energy levels. I'm not going to lie. My energy levels definitely have room for improvement, but they are the best they have ever been. And I have a tiny, well, he's not actually tiny anymore. He's nearly 1. But even throughout this whole postnatal period, and my relationship with food is normal. When I check in with my thyroid antibodies every 6 to 12 months, they're doing really well. My thyroid hormones are doing really well. It's all good. So let's get started. Okay, if I could change one thing, if I could be your fairy godmother that kind of walked into your room and kind of sang you a lovely song, and I had a magic wand where I could change one thing. Oh, hi, Kate. Hi, Lewis. Hello. And change one thing, what would that be? So if I could kind of wave a magic wand, come in right now and just change one thing when it came to your health, what would that one thing be? Let me know in the comments underneath. Sorry, something popped up. Okay. Let me know in the comments. There's sometimes a little bit of a delay with the comments, so I'll carry on and then come back to it. So let's get started with the meat of this, because there was a lot to share. So this is the Energy Masterclass. And I'm assuming you're here because you would like more energy, are feeling fatigued, whatever. So the first thing we need to ask is why you might be tired. And this isn't the first thing to ask just with tiredness. If you have IBS, if you're bloated, if you have PCOS, endometriosis, if you can't get pregnant, if you have eczema, if you have psoriasis, if you are anxious, if you have depression, if you have another mental health issues, you want to ask why. And that is kind of what if you were to sum up what I do with the work of clients and what a holistic nutritionist is, it's someone that looks at the whole person, has a holistic, connected view, and asks the question why. That's what I feel like I do a lot of the time with clients, is ask the question why, and then from there, make nutritional plans, make a plan of action, sort out, like, you know, the client I had just before then, before coming on here, we were making like a plan of action to help balance her hormones. But you first need to ask why. And what on earth does your thyroid, like, what does that have to do with it? Pauline's asking for a spa weekend. Oh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, so your thyroid gland. It's a gland, which means it makes hormones. It's part of your endocrine system, your hormone system. And it's a buttershaped, it's not the shape of butter, butterfly-shaped gland kind of in your neck here. And it secretes hormones that help regulate your metabolism and your growth, your temperature, all of those kind of things. It's really important. It's small but mighty. It kind of acts as like the thermostat. So it helps with your energy, your mental health. It impacts your menstrual cycle, your skin, your hair, your cognitive function, your fertility, your energy, so many things. Every cell, apart from your red blood cells, needs some of the hormones that the thyroid produces. So it's like a big deal. And thyroid disease and thyroid issues and thyroid imbalances are absolutely rampant. And it's something I'm actually super passionate about. I've worked with so many clients that have come to me and they honestly think they're a little bit crazy. They think they're being a bit dramatic. They think they're just, should just carry on regardless. They've been told that everything's normal. They've been told that everything's fine. And then when we do further investigations, there's actually like a thyroid disease going on. This is based on American stats. This, women are 5 to 8 times more likely than men, although that probably still stands in the UK. But it goes really undiagnosed. And in the US, and it would probably be a similar-ish in the UK, would be 12% of the population would have a thyroid condition in their lifetime. That's a huge amount of people. But so many people they just say tired, they get depressed, they get put on antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, they just feel a bit sluggish, and they just slowly deteriorate, and they just think it's getting older, or they just think it's because they need to sleep more even though they're sleeping 8 hours, or they just think, well, it's just them, it's just all in their head. Chances are it's not. Just saying. Chances are it's not all in your head. So what can go wrong with this thyroid? Because there's lots of different things. So you can have hyperthyroidism, which is when this gland here kind of gets hyper, basically. It kind of, if you imagine like a hyper child on like millions of Haribo, your thyroid just gets overexcited, produces too much hormones, it revs everything else up. Your metabolism goes too fast, your heart goes too fast, you can get too hot, you can lose too much weight, it's just too much. Often it's the main cause of Graves' disease, which would be this hyperthyroidism that can come with eye disease and is an autoimmune condition. So that's one aspect, that's hyper, too much. Then you have hypo, which is low. It's that when your thyroid is just a bit tired. And it does stuff, but very slowly. That's how I like to think of it. Hyper and hypo, low, is when your thyroid is just a bit sluggish. It's not producing enough hormones, not quite enough, or not the right ratio, or not a good amount of hormones is being produced. And then you have what we'll just call Hashimoto's, which is when actually the hormones that your thyroid are making are all fine and are all correct, but your body, your immune system is creating antibodies that attack your thyroid. So your thyroid's actually doing a really great job, but for some reason your immune system goes, there's a threat in the thyroid, let's attack it, attack, and will damage the thyroid over time and cause hypo or hypothyroidism because of that long-term damage. And it's this Hashimoto's aspect that's often goes most under the radar, because it's only when it gets to being hyperthyroid or hypothyroidism are the symptoms most obvious. It can be a little insidious noticing this, which is why I'm so glad for me that I caught it relatively early on. Like I wasn't at the point where it was sky high. Like, I've had clients, some thyroid antibodies should be under 30, and I've had clients, and then when we've tested it, they're like at 500, 600. Really elevated. So you really ideally don't want to get to that point, but lots of people are. So those are the things that can go wrong when it comes to your thyroid. And these would be the symptoms. So I've taken this from Isabella Wentz. If you want to read a good book about thyroid, or she's written 2 books now about the thyroid, Isabella Wentz is great. She's a pharmacist and has thyroid issues herself and has written some great resources on it. So I've taken this from her. So if you're hypo, which is when it's low and tired and sluggish, your hair could be super dry. You might lose a bit of the eyebrow hair. Your face might be quite puffy. Your neck might be sore. Your heartbeat might be slow. Constipated, gain weight. You might feel cold, depressed, have dry skin, fatigue, infertility, heavy periods, wonky periods, irregular periods. If you're hyper, you might be losing your hair. They might have the eye issues, bulging eyes, again, sore neck. You might lose weight, or you might have gained weight. Your bowels might be loose. You might tremor and just feel like quite edgy. There might be depression, anxiety, again, fertility issues, menstrual issues, nervousness. And if you have Hashimoto's, you can have a blend of these two, because the antibodies can sometimes make your thyroid swing from hypo to hyper. So one week you might be really hyperthyroid, and then the next week you're swinging to hypo, and you kind of swing in between. So the symptoms are kind of what we would describe. So hypo is that slowing down, cold, weight gain, forgetful, depressed, anxious. Your menstrual cycles are irregular, the sense of weakness. Hyper is weight loss, palpitations, tremors. Hashimoto's can be a blend of the above, and bad digestive issues, but all of them you're going to be tired, basically. And I would say I most commonly see hypothyroid in my kind of clinic, online nutrition clinic, would be clients that are hypothyroidism. I've had a couple that are hyper, but I think probably hypo is maybe more common. I don't know statistically, but from my experience in clinic, I would say hypo is more common. So these are the different symptoms. So right now, I want to know, we're going to do a little thyroid symptom bingo. I don't know if this is bingo, but how many of these, have a quick look on the screen, how many of these symptoms would you say you suffer with? So there's 32. Just really quickly, this doesn't need to be precise or perfect, but really, really quickly, just have a look while I have a sip of water, and I want you to Look at how many of these, and put in the comments how many of these do you struggle with. Are you at 5 out of 32, 1 out of 32, 10? I can tell you at my worst, I would have been probably about 14. Yeah, maybe thereabouts, maybe a bit more when things were really bad. So let me know in the comments how many of these things would you be struggling with? Yes, Kate, low hypo. I know it's an easy way to remember it because otherwise it can get confusing. Oh yes, I love Rihanna saying not bad, would have been worse before. Yes, it's because you've been doing a lot of work on your thyroid. Okay, right, because the comment's going to take a bit of time to come through. I'm going to carry on and then go back through. Over 20. Bugger, don't worry, you're not the first. It happens. And sometimes it can be like a bit of a snowball, a lot of these things. So we've got 10, 20, 5. Keep counting. I'm going to carry on because I know there's a bit of a delay. With this, it's worth saying that even with this little assessment that I'm doing there, this isn't for self-diagnosis. With thyroid issues, you need to go to the doctor. You just need to go, you need to have a chat, you need to get a blood test done. The doctor, as we'll talk about, probably won't do a thorough blood test, but you still need to go to a doctor because sometimes you might just need medication, or these symptoms might also be symptoms of something else going on. So because the thyroid affects every cell in the body, the symptoms are really broad, quite sometimes vague and non-specific. So these symptoms, dry skin, constipation, muscle cramps, stint sniff, joint pain, can also be symptoms of other things, which is why we need to go to the doctor to get other things checked out. Just so you know, don't self-diagnose this. Don't just decide, oh, I have a thyroid issue. No, there might be something else going on that might need more immediate attention. Okay, just putting that out there. I know you're all sensible, but sometimes people do message me crazy things. Okay, so what do we do? We've talked about the foundations. I didn't want to spend too much time on that because I want to spend the majority of the time talking about what the heck do we do? Because if you've got 15, 16 out of 5, 8, 10, 20, we want to do something about that. I would love for you to get down to 0, down to 1, down to 2, to actually really reduce this down. And it is possible for you. I see it in my clients. They'll send me emails or messages about, their own thyroid markers have gone down, or how much energy, like how their energy is improving. It is possible, just requires a bit of action. So what are the 3 foundations to naturally support your energy and your thyroid? And if you're like, I'm not sure I do have a thyroid issue, these things you could just say the 3 foundations to naturally supporting your energy. Full stop. Even if you know you don't have a thyroid issue. These are really important, and I'm going to go through them in more depth. But to summarize, they are food intolerances. So looking at foods that add inflammation, getting thorough testing done, what that looks like for the thyroid, and even if you don't have thyroid issues, what are some tests that you really want to look at if you're feeling fatigued a lot of the time. And we want to replenish nutrients essential for thyroid health. Or if it's not with the thyroid, you want to look at replenishing nutrients because chances are you're tired because you might be low in specific nutrients. Okay, number 1, food intolerances. So thyroid problem, any type of thyroid problem. And you could probably argue fatigue in general, feeling tired. But thyroid problems specifically are a form of inflammation. Inflammation is something that the body creates to protect itself. So you fall off a bike and you sprain your wrist. Chances are your wrist is going to swell up. That swelling up is increasing the water and antibodies to that area to help and protect and heal that area. So with a thyroid issue, that causes inflammation. So sometimes your thyroid literally swells up and you can end up with a goiter or like a big bulge here. Or with Hashimoto's, you have this inflammation in the form of antibodies. Or with other thyroid issues, like your thyroid is inflamed with hyperthyroidism because it's trying to protect you by producing more thyroid hormones. vice versa. When it's hypo, that inflammation is more around the lack of production. So we want to remove inflammation. If you're already inflamed, you want to make sure that the foods that you're eating are not adding fuel to the fire. If you think about your thyroid being on fire and the food, you don't want to be eating food that is like petrol onto that fire and making it work even harder and be even more stressed out. And that's where food intolerances come in. The food that we eat can either help our bodies to heal, or it can make it harder and actually add inflammation and actually kind of destroy. Actually, ultimately, we can either build ourselves up with the food we eat, or we can make our lives harder and deplete and drain ourselves. And I found from my experience, but actually just from research as well, that the most problematic foods for the thyroid and for your energy levels, I would say in general, would be gluten. That's got the most research when it comes specifically to your thyroid, but also dairy, especially milk, standard milk, corn and soy. If you have a thyroid issue, know you have a thyroid issue, or suspect that you do, these are the 4 foods that you really want to look at avoiding. And I would start with gluten and dairy, and then you can always get more nuance with corn and soy. Corn and soy are really hidden ones. I mean, you're probably like, Kezzy, I'm not sitting eating a plate of corn and soy, but actually they're in so many foods and can cause a lot of inflammation in some people. So these are the foods that you want to look at. I'm just going to bring this up because I don't think, there we go. These are the things you want to look. Sorry, I've lost my place because I realised that you can't see half the slides because my face is in the way. There we go. But other foods can also cause inflammation, and these might be things like eggs, preservatives, additives, E-numbers, high histamine foods, high FODMAP foods, nuts even. They might be causing problems as well. So, food intolerances. And so how do you know if you have a food intolerance? How do you know? Should you get a test? Should you, I've got a lot of messages recently where people have done intolerance tests. Like there's an advert on Instagram for like a £20 hair food intolerance test. I wouldn't recommend that. You probably would have a food intolerance if you are tired all the time, if you're bloated a lot, if you've got weird bowels, loose or constipated or whatever. Could be thyroid issues, could be, there could be an autoimmunity. There's probably some sort of food intolerance going on. But equally, you might not struggle with one of these foods. Sorry, I just lost my trail of thought. With food intolerances, I always want to be balanced with this because every single body is different. Your body is completely different. You might be able to get away with eating gluten and feel fine, or you might eat gluten and it makes your joints sore, lowers your energy, makes you constipated, and makes you feel really angry. But everyone is different, so everything that I'm talking about in this webinar really needs to come with a pin. These are the foundations, and I do think they apply to generally most people. And if you take action on this, I'm pretty sure you're going to feel better with your energy. If you are like, I do probably eat a lot of gluten, okay, I'm going to go gluten-free for a month. I would put money on the fact that you probably feel like you'd have more energy. Or with dairy-free, maybe you suspect maybe your sinuses are blocked like mine are right now all the time. It's not just like you having a cold. It's like you're just constantly, your sinuses always full, always have a cold. Then dairy might be a problem for you. So I generally think these really help, but every single body is different. And also you might not have a thyroid issue, you might not be bloated, but you could still be having a food intolerance. People tend to think food intolerances sort of apply to people with IBS. You might not have a lot of digestive issues. That doesn't mean that gluten isn't doing your thyroid any good. So I had a friend that didn't really have IBS, didn't struggle with digestive issues, but had a thyroid issue, Hashimoto's. So she went gluten-free and she saw her antibodies drop right down. Then she kind of slowly reintroduced gluten because it didn't affect it, like she wasn't getting bloated or anything like that. So it's kind of crept back in. She got antibodies tested again and they'd gone right back up. So every time she eats gluten, her antibodies elevate, even if she's not feeling bloated or having bowel issues, because it's still causing inflammation and contributing to inflammation. So what do you do about this? So what you think about is take a minute to think, okay, out of gluten, dairy, corn, and soy, just listen to your body, tune in and think, okay, what of those foods do I already know is probably slightly problematic, but I eat it anyway? What of those foods do I already think maybe makes you bloated, but I eat it anyway? And for a period of 60 to 90 days, focus on removing that. Do that. And if you're not sure, start with gluten. Just start with gluten. And I can see a couple of questions coming in. I'm going to do all the questions at the end, because if I do them in the middle, I'll lose my trail of thought and get sidetracked and not get through everything. So great questions. But with any questions you have, I want to answer as many questions as we can in the time frame at the end, but I'm going to do it all at the end. Otherwise, I will get sidetracked. So I'm just going to elbow soil. Lovely. Sorry, you guys. Help me to breathe a little bit better. Well, obviously I'm breathing fine, but maybe be less sinusy. Okay, so what do? Remove the food. If a certain food is adding to the fire of inflammation, it does your body so much good if you just remove it for like 60 to 90 days ideally. And then you want to eat more of healthy fats, healthy proteins, veggies, and fibers. The biggest mistakes people make with food intolerances is they don't do it for long enough. You need to do, I know I've just said 60 to 90 days, but as a minimum, you want 30 days. Often people are like, oh, I've been gluten-free for a week and I don't feel better. Yeah, you need to do it for longer, because what we're talking about, this inflammation that could be happening from the food, is about your immune system. Your immune system isn't just going to go, oh, I've not had gluten for 48 hours. Everything's fine and dandy. No, your immune system, the nature of your immune system is that it remembers. It remembers things and it stays on edge and it's on your defense all the time. So you need to give it a good period of time for your immune system to really go, oh, right, we actually haven't had gluten for ages. Okay, right, we can maybe calm down about that. Next mistake people make is they'll say, I'm going to go gluten-free. And so they just switch their bread to gluten-free bread, and their biscuits to gluten-free biscuits, and their pasta to gluten-free pasta, and their crackers to gluten-free crackers. And they basically just eat loads of processed gluten-free foods. That will often make you more bloated and might make you feel worse, because loads of processed gluten-free foods are filled with corn and filled with soy. So you really don't just want to be like, well, I'll just eat gluten-free bread. No, unless you're making it yourself and you know exactly what's going in, you actually want to focus on naturally gluten-free foods, gluten-free oats, quinoa, rice, those kinds of things. Don't just go and buy your gluten-free breads all the time or eating that every day, because that will probably make you feel a bit grim. Not being strict enough. So people often, like with dairy, they're like, oh, I don't really eat much dairy, Kezia. I just have it in my coffee or in my milk. In my tea. That still matters, because again, what we're talking about is this inflammatory response, and your body will react to a small amount of dairy or a big amount of dairy. It's not the amount of dairy, it's how your body is responding to that on a cellular level. Is it causing inflammation? And having that regular little dash of milk in your tea and your coffee throughout the day, all day, every day, means that all day, every day, you're getting tiny doses of something that could be causing inflammation. The other mistake people make is they just keep on restricting more and more food. I've had clients come to me where they've had so many energy issues and digestive issues, they've just stopped eating gluten, and then dairy, and then eggs, and then nuts, and then FODMAPs, and then salicylates, and then all of these different foods that actually get to the point where they're so restricted on their eating, they lose too much weight and it's completely unhealthy. Another mistake is people will just eat loads of sugary foods instead. So they're like, well, I'm gluten-free, so I'll just buy this gluten-free thing, and because it says gluten-free, I'll think it's good for me, when it's actually like some gluten-free millionaire shortbread. Just because something says gluten-free and doesn't make it mean it's good for you. There's a gluten-free bakery near me that's all gluten-free. I mean, and it's super tasty, guys. Really good millionaire shortbread. But there is nothing healthy about that millionaire shortbread from a nutrient point of view. So sugary, so tasty, but don't just, people just eat sugar instead. Also, people might just eat less food overall. They just remove gluten, so they kind of just stop eating foods, which is not a good idea. Okay, so we've gone through food intolerances. I'm aware of the time. So I am going to move on to testing. So when it comes to testing for the thyroid and for your energy in general, what are you looking for and why is it important? Because, with testing and with your thyroid, sometimes you will need medication, and that's okay. And you can't get medication if you don't have a test and you don't have a diagnosis. So, and also testing means you know exactly what is going on, because I could make guesses that you might be hyper or have antibodies, but I don't actually know. And also the big problem is that if you go to the GP suspecting you have a thyroid issue, chances are they're going to check one marker in order to check in with your thyroid health instead of the 8+ markers that are actually required for a thorough workup of your thyroid. And this annoys the heck out of me, guys. Sorry, I'm just gonna. All this talking is. I don't want to snot on camera. It's not a good look, is it? So this is a really important, and this is partly why I think, why I know it's really underdiagnosed, and so many women are struggling and getting put on the wrong medication. They're getting put on antidepressants when potentially the problem is their thyroid. And then they're on antidepressants and they helps a little bit, but not that much, and they're still struggling. So they maybe just get offered different antidepressants or a higher dose, when actually the problem could be the thyroid. Not in all cases, obviously, but so important. And this is something that I really recommend. If you're not getting thorough testing from your GP, do it privately. I do it privately myself every since having a baby, I've done it more regularly because it can fluctuate a lot in pregnancy and in that postnatal period. But I do it every year generally. Also because I know it runs in my family. I know there's that health history there. I know my own health history. But most doctors will check your TSH levels, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, and that is a hormone that your pituitary gland makes to go and kind of wake up your thyroid. So that is often the marker that will get checked. But TSH is an important hormone for the thyroid, but it's not a hormone made by the thyroid. It's made by the pituitary gland. So why on earth we just test TSH? I mean, it's a great test for checking how your pituitary gland is doing, and it does give you some indication of how your thyroid is doing, because depending on how much TSH you need is how much waking up your thyroid needs. So there is a good rationale for doing it. But your thyroid actually makes a lot more hormones. It makes something called T4. It makes something called T3. You want to test the antibodies, because your TSH might be normal, your T4 might be normal, your T3 might be normal, but your antibodies might be sky high. And this is what does my nutting about this area. I cannot tell you how many clients have come to me and they've been like, yeah, I've been tested for my thyroid, it's all normal. We've worked together and I'm like, I really think your thyroid is off. We do a private test. The antibodies are elevated. Their T3 is low. Their T4 is low. And they're like, oh crap, I have a thyroid issue. And if you haven't, and it's because they've not had proper testing. And even I've had clients that know they have a thyroid issue. So they know they're hypothyroid and they've been refused to have their antibodies checked because the philosophy can be, well, if you have antibodies, once you have them, there's nothing we can do about them, so there's no point in testing them. There's actually loads you can do about elevated antibodies. Anyway, but it's not just your thyroid hormones you want to check, which I've got listed here. That's just from the Thyroid Mum, which is a great resource. So you want your TSH, T4, T3, ideally reverse T3, your antibodies as a bare minimum. If you want a bare minimum check of your thyroid, you want to check your TSH, which they will do, T4, T3, free T4 and 3 T3, and your antibodies. Ideally reverse T3, but in the NHS you won't get reverse T3 tested. If you were to be referred to an endocrinologist, they would definitely check your T4, T3 and your antibodies. So sometimes you just need to ask to be referred to an endocrinologist, which if there's a family history, that isn't too unreasonable. But you don't just want those things to be checked. You also want your vitamin D, your iron, your B12, your folate, something called C-reactive protein, because these all play a really important role. So how do you go about and do this? Number one, you can go to your doctor and ask for the tests, or you can then ask to be referred to an endocrinologist. Number two is you can pay for a panel yourself, and this will cost anywhere between £60 and £90. I think it's one of the best investments you can do in your health. That's why I do it all the time. I'll probably every year do a panel that goes through all my thyroid hormones, also vitamin D, B12, folate, iron, cholesterol, a couple of other markers, and I do that probably at least once a year. Best investment, £90. Because then If your doctor is refusing to test for you, you do a private test. You can take those test results and be like, hey, I just did this test that showed me my T3 was really low or that my antibodies were really elevated. Can you refer me to an endocrinologist? Because a doctor won't take your private test results. It won't give you any treatment based on private test results, but it can be the impetus to then get you referred to an endocrinologist and the help that you need, and to potentially get the medication that you may or may not choose to take. You don't have to take medication with thyroid, but sometimes it is necessary and can be helpful. Always ask for a paper copy of your results yourself. I say this, any test you get done at the doctor, ask for a copy for yourself, keep it on a file, take a photo of it, keep your own results. They might be annoyed at printing them off for you, doesn't matter. Your body, it's your rights to have your results. Keep it really, really important. Keep a copy of your test results. Okay, so this is my own test results. So if you did a private test, might be what it looks like. An NHS test wouldn't look as colourful as this. And this is just an example of some of the things that we tested. So this was one that I did just after having Millen, so everything was looking relatively okay. Reverse T3 was, I would say, probably a little bit more elevated, to be honest, than I would like. Because just a quick 101 on your thyroid. Thyroid produces hormones. It will produce T4, which is kind of, if you're on medication, your levothyroxine, you're kind of medicating and supplementing with T4 through the medication, but your thyroid should make T4. T4 on a really basic level gets converted into something called T3. It kind of gets converted along. In fact, do I have a picture? No, I didn't put one in. It gets converted into T3, and it's T3 that goes out towards the body and really helps, is the biologically active hormone that you really, really need. So, but when you're really stressed, when you've got other things, when there's health issues going on, when you've not got the right nutrients, when there's all these different things going on, T4 in the body, instead of getting converted into T3, which goes out and gives you all the energy, T4 will convert into reverse T3, which isn't as biologically active and causes a lot of problems. So your TSH can be normal, your T4 can be normal, but you might have low T3, and this could mean that your reverse T3 is really elevated because your cortisol and your stress is through the roof. So that's a really basic description of that. This is an example of the antibodies as well. So my antibodies, 2 sets were that's kind of like normal for me now. With that, my thyroid stimulating hormone, I always set about 0.9 with that. So that's just an example of my results. These are the vitamin D, B12, ferritin, and folate. Ferritin is your stored iron. You want to make sure your B12 is really good, your vitamin D. When I did this test, I started supplementing again with vitamin D because I thought that was a bit low, especially as I was still breastfeeding. And again, with folate, that was also a bit low. But I have a genetic mutation that means I need a lot of folate, but we're not going to go into that now. Okay. Whew, we're doing well. We're on to number 3. How are you all doing, guys? Okay, let's look through these. Oh, yeah, your doctor only checked 1 marker 2. Yeah, it's really common, and I don't think they mean to be mean. It's just a bit of a lack of education, and I think probably a lack of finances. But it means thyroid issues do affect men 100%, but it's mainly women that it affects, and it just does my feminist nut in. Because I'm like, of course we don't check this mainly male medical system. Of course we don't do proper checks of thyroids because, it's just women. They'll just grin and bear it. Ugh. No, we have spent far too much time tolerating feeling crap. So don't tolerate feeling crap. That's the one thing you take away from this. Okay, so the third aspect is replenishing nutrients. If you are tired all the time, then chances are it might be because you need a bit more help in producing this thing that is energy. Like, you actually need to make a little bit more energy. In order to make energy, you need specific nutrients that are involved in the chemical reaction that results in this thing called energy, that results in ATP. If you don't have those key ingredients through your nutrients, vitamins, and minerals, it makes this production of energy trickier. And before we even dive into that, or to lay the foundation of that, we're going to talk about our digestive system. So we are what we digest. We're not what we eat. You could be eating kale and eggs and avocados and sauerkraut and wild salmon and blueberries and strawberries and eating so many good foods all the time. If you're not digesting them, meaning if you're not able to break them down, then you're going to really, really struggle. We don't just need to eat awesome food. We need to get the goodness from that food into our cells. And that is what digestion is. And if you are eating really healthy, and I see this all the time with the women I work with, they actually come to me and I look at their food diaries and they are eating really well. They're eating good food. They know what food's good and what food's good for them and what's not helpful and doesn't serve them, but they still feel crap, and that's because their digestion is poor. So they're eating the nutrients, but they're not getting it into their cells because their digestion is wonky. So digestion plays a big role in thyroid health and just in your energy levels. Your thyroid needs these certain nutrients to make hormones. So it's not just in making ATP, in this energy, your thyroid needs things like selenium, vitamin D, iodine, tyrosine, iron, zinc, and B12 to produce thyroid hormones. So it plays a really, really important role. And where do these things come from? Where does selenium come from? Where does vitamin D come from? Where does iodine, tyrosine, where does iron come from? Where does zinc come from? It comes from the food we eat. To be fair, vitamin D comes from the sun. So, you need good amounts of fat in your blood, though, to make the vitamin D. But there is little bits of vitamin D in things like egg yolk and butter. So digestion is really, really important. So we need tyrosine, which is an amino acid, in order to make T4, T3, the T, think of that as tyrosine. T4, that hormone the thyroid makes, T3, that gets converted from T4, tyrosine. Think of that. So you need that important amino acid. Amino acid comes from protein. So meat, fish, eggs. That's where we would get that protein, that amino acid from. So protein is made up of amino acids. So you want to be eating some good protein in order to get the tyrosine. But you need to be able to eat the protein and then break down that protein into these amino acids. And in order to do that, you need good stomach acid in order to digest and get and absorb that amino acid. So you could be meat and fish and eggs and all these healthy proteins. If you don't have good stomach acid, you're not going to be getting the T needed for your thyroid hormone production. Iron. You'll know about iron. If you don't have enough iron, you are going to be tired. I had a client this week who is basically borderline, or her iron levels are borderline, and she can't breathe very well, is exhausted. And, I was like, we need to get some iron into your system. Even though she was I think she was 12.8, and the lowest end of the range for iron levels is about 12, and the highest is 200 or something. She was at 12.8. I was like, girl, you need iron. Iron transports oxygen. If your cells don't get oxygen, well, you're going to be knackered. But your thyroid needs iron as well. But in order to get iron from the food you eat, maybe you're like, Kezia, I eat red meat, I eat my spinach, I have my chicken liver pate, whatever it is. You need stomach acid in order to absorb the iron and the B12. So it's not just about eating the nutrients, you need to get them in your body. So what are some thyroid-loving foods? So we're talking about foods. What would be foods to eat more of when it comes to supporting your energy and your thyroid? You want wild fish, things like sardines, such a good food. A tin of sardines will cost you 50p, and honestly, the amount of nutrients you get from it are phenomenal. I feed my son sardines all the freaking time. So cheap, so good for you. So good for you, especially if you don't eat dairy, full of calcium. So good for you. Also, salon. I meant salmon. Go to the salon. Mackerel, things like organic grass-fed meat. So red meat. I would generally recommend you eating good quality, really good quality red meat at least once a week. Things like beetroots, ginger, turmeric, coriander, green vegetables, all the vegetables. Things like herbal teas, especially stuff like nettle and dandelion. Bone broths and homemade stock. Probiotic food like sauerkraut, kombucha, kimchi, kefir, all the things. Kelp is something that's really helpful if you know you're low in iodine. If you don't know you're low in iodine, I probably wouldn't take it. Olive oil, coconut oil, MCT oil, avocados, chia seeds, freshly ground black seeds. All of those foods are amazing foods that I would love you to eat more of, but all with the caveat that you need to be able to digest them. So no food is perfect. So with the fish, you might not be able to digest the protein and fat in sardines and mackerel. With the meat, again, you might not be able to digest that much protein because your stomach acid is low. Beetroots, ginger, garlic, cooked veggies, that might be too much fiber because you've got digestive issues and it irritates your IBS. Bone broth might be a problem because it's too high in histamine and you've got gut imbalances. So No food is perfect, which is why you really need a personalized approach when it comes to this, and why there is no everyone should do this diet and everyone will be fine. We need to learn what is going to work for our bodies. And another food, air quotes, that is really going to help your thyroid, really going to help your energy is daily meditation and breath work. I talk to my clients, I use the analogy of it's flicking the switch. If you think of a light switch on and off, throughout the day, we tend to just have in one mode: productivity, stress, reacting, go, go, go. And you feel it, like with me, my shoulders are all like, I can be walking around little like, go, go, I need to find the coconut oil and the avocados, because I'm in this sympathetic nervous state. I'm in this kind of stressed state. And every day we need to make sure we're taking a bit of time to take some deep breaths. Even now as you're watching this. Taking some deep breaths while you're driving the car, while you're going around Lidl or Aldi or the shop, while you're waiting at the traffic light, while you walk into the toilet, while you're making a cup of tea, while you are washing your hands. Really you can probably feel the difference from doing it now. I can, because I'm in go, go, go sympathetic nervous state, because I'm teaching and my nervous system is go. But I can feel that difference even then of my nervous system calming down. And that's where meditation is awesome for this. Really, really good, because it's just so well researched and it's a really great way of helping your immune system and your energy levels. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's really important to do that. And then we can't go on without mentioning sugar. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this, but you need to address your relationship with sugar. If you are tired in any way, whether it's your thyroid or not, whether it's just whether it's chronic fatigue, sugar will drain you of your energy. I know it will. I know you'll think you'll get energy from it. You'll be like, oh, just some Haribo or a chocolate bar, and you'll get that nice kind of sugary rush. But in the long run, it is taking energy from you. It is not giving you energy. In short term, you get a boost, but it's setting you up to fail energetically. So with thyroid function specifically, say you have poor thyroid function, that's going to make you tired, more sore, more depressed, more malaise, which is probably going to mean you have more sugar cravings. You're like, oh, I just want to eat the ice cream. So you eat the sugar, then that sugar contributes to the inflammation. It weakens your immune system. It adds to that hormonal strength. It contributes to autoimmunity and fatigue. And so it doesn't support your thyroid. So you just end up in this vicious cycle of poor thyroid function, tired, eating sugar, which contributes to poor thyroid function, tired, eating sugar, and you just end up in this cycle. And I know I am a recovering sugar addict. Like, I would have ketchup sandwiches, I would eat Mars, like a snack for me on the way home from work was a Bounty and a Mars bar at the same time. My favourite cereal growing up was Frosties. Me and my friends used to come home from school and make like bowls where we just basically put all the ice cream, biscuits, sweets, ice cream sauce, Nutella all in a bowl. Like, I love sugar, loved sugar. Actually, I don't love it anymore. I don't like how it makes me feel. It definitely robs me of my energy and vitality, for want of a better word, for sure. But addressing your relationship with sugar, if that is the one thing you do when it comes to energy, I would say when it comes to energy, if you're going to boil it down to energy in general and thyroid in general, if you want to increase your energy or if you want to support your thyroid, you want to deal with sugar and you want to deal with gluten. Or experiment with gluten first. Gluten might not be a problem for you, and that's fine, but you need to experiment to know that. Don't just assume you're fine with it. You need to run an experiment like we talked about. Sugar and gluten, or sugar and food intolerances, just dealing with those things, I've seen with clients that in itself is enough for them to get their energy back. So, no, you're not crazy. There is a cause. If you are exhausted, if you're feeling depressed, if you're anxious more than you used to be, if you feel like you're just waking up so tired and like wading through treacle, there is a reason. There is a cause. And if there's a cause, then you can do something about it, which is the best thing. So the question is, you've got to ask yourself, is do you want to do something about it? There isn't a quick fix here. This isn't if you want more energy, take this supplement and everything in your life will be fine. No, there isn't a quick fix. This is about being willing to make changes. And when you do make these changes, you can see results fast. So I am going to give you a couple of case studies here. So this is an example of a client I had a while ago, and she came feeling off, not quite herself, bloated, demotivated, down, kind of anxious for the first time in her life and a bit depressed, which she'd never really been before. Her periods suddenly just went really weird and out of balance, when pretty much before that they'd been all right. She'd made some nutritional changes with sugar and gluten that had made a difference, but she still felt a little bit rubbish. And so we went and did private testing. I suspected there was thyroid issues. She'd been fobbed off by a doctor a million times. Her antibodies were sky high. And this story, I've seen a couple, like this Sarah, that's not her real name, but I've seen Sarah several times in my clinic with different people. So I see this quite a lot in different shapes, different sizes, different names, this story. And she thought it was kind of in her head, but it's not. Her antibodies were really elevated, and we could get in there before they did permanent damage to her thyroid, which is amazing. Then we have, we'll call her Gainer. She came with really bad periods. She already knew she had a thyroid condition, so she was hypothyroid. Her periods were really sore, uncomfortable, really tired, despite the medication and being on the levothyroxine, and having normal results. So when the doctors checked in with her, because she knew she had a thyroid issue, her TSH and T4 levels were all fine and normal, but she felt like she was really struggling with the medication. So within a month, we removed dairy because that looked like the most problematic things for her. We added in some supplements to support her hormone and converting her T4 into T3, and we really looked at her sugar issues. And now she's feeling so much better. Her energy has improved, her sleep has improved, and her period, even one cycle after making that change, she saw an improvement in her PMS and like the pain around her periods, which is awesome. So we've gone through the three foundations. So we've talked about a lot of things. So I want to know, what is the one thing that you think you need to work on? One thing. Because we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about food intolerances, sugar, caffeine, no, we haven't talked about caffeine, but caffeine won't help. Again, caffeine is like sugar. It gives you that short-term boost and can be useful to use short-term. But if you use caffeine all day, every day, it actually is going to rob you of your energy, not give you your energy. So we've talked about all these different things, which could feel a bit like, oh, but I want you to leave this workshop with a clear plan. So what is the one thing that I've talked about that really resonates with you? What is the one thing that we've discussed where you're like, oh, I think I need to think about that. I think I need to apply it. I think I need to take action on that one thing. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to do all three of these things at once. You don't need to be all or nothing, get everything in your life all sorted. The best thing you can do for your health is to take one small action and do it consistently for like the next 12, 24 months. But I know it's more appealing for people to be like, overnight, I'm going to ditch gluten and sugar and meditate and go for a run and do my 10K. No. That is not sustainable. You want to do one thing and you want to do one thing well. So tell me what that one thing is. And while those things are coming up, I want to tell you about the little giveaway I'm doing, which is fun, because we talked about in the program that a personalized program is the best, which is why I do the work that I do in my nutrition clinic, because everybody is different. Literally, everyone's body is different and will react differently. So you really need to know why you're low in energy. Otherwise, you were just going to be stabbing in the dark. So what I've been doing for the last couple of months when I do these workshops, which is super fun, is been offering a couple of limited little giveaways that are basically mini 15-minute consultations where you've watched this workshop, you've probably got some questions, you probably want a bit of personalized support. So we hop on a call online for 15 minutes. You can ask me one question or one area, and I can give you that personalized and bespoke advice, and it's totally free. This is like, I'm not selling anything on these calls. I'm not going to be like, buy this special supplement. I'm not going to, they are purely to help you. I hate the idea that the, I don't know, 50 women that signed up for this call are all struggling with fatigue. That honestly makes me feel really sad, like it does. And that is why I do this, because I know how crap it is to just wake up feeling exhausted and to wake up thinking it's all in your head and being told that it's all in your head and just wonder, is this going to be the rest of my life then? Like, I know that feeling so well. It actually makes me feel emotional thinking about it. I know that feeling so well that's why I do what I do. So I would love to spend 15 minutes with you, and we can get that personalized support. It's free. I'm not going to tell you anything, but there is limited sessions and a limited time frame to pick these up. I'm only offering 6 because I am busy seeing other clients that pay me money so I can pay my bills. But I do have space for 6 free mini consultations, 15 minutes, to give you that personalized and bespoke help within that 15 minutes. If that resonates with you, you want to take action, you have questions, you're not sure, or you're just not quite sure what you need, sign up for one of these. They'll be really helpful and really lovely to chat to on the phone. Don't worry, guys. I know it can be intimidating if you're a bit of an introvert to be like, oh, get on the call with someone I don't know. Oh, that's weird. Totally get that. But every time I do these calls, the women are like, thank you so much. And it really, really can help. So I'm just going to put the link for booking that in the comments below. It's first come, first serve. So when 6 people have booked and when the time slots are full, then that's that, basically. So I'm just going to put that link in on here. So if you want to do that, also the times that are available are on here. So I'm just going to check. It's going to let me to do this. I think I might have like freaked out the whole system. There we go. Okay, so that should have come through. Otherwise, get started with your questions. Oh dear, is this? Okay, great. That has gone through. Right. So I'm just aware that... So, sorry, I thought it had stopped for a second. So let's do some Q&A time. Hello! So we don't need that up anymore. So I want to know your questions. I'll scroll through the questions that we had before as well. But what is your action? I want to know what action you take. And I want you to think about it. There is literally no point in you coming to this workshop, listening to a bunch of stuff and then doing nothing about it. It's actually a waste of your time because you might just fill up your brain with all this information that you're not going to do anything about. So I really encourage you, think about something small. Think about an action that you can take that is really going to help based on what we've talked about. So I know for some of you, it was all about sugar. Yep, sugar, dieting and not self-sabotaging. Such a big one. Self-sabotage is a big problem, and I'm talking about that a lot with the women in my Nourish group coaching community, because you can have all the knowledge about what to eat. To eat sugar and gluten, and I need some selenium and green vegetables, but if what's going on in here is messed up, you're going to struggle. Like, you're just going to constantly self-sabotage. Because your behavior around food, eating too much sugar, binging, drinking, eating a loaf of bread, whatever it is driven by thoughts in your head that drive that behavior. Beliefs that you have drive your behavior. If you wonder why you constantly keep binging on sugar, it's probably because you have certain beliefs in your mind that drive the behavior, that make you think, well, stuff it, it's a Friday, I'm just going to eat all the Haribo or all the Yum Yums or all the whatever, fill in the blank with your favorite thing. So always sugar, sugar, sugar for me. Week 2 of no sugar. Well done, Kate. Woo-hoo! You can do it. I know from experience that the idea of ditching sugar can feel so overwhelming and literally impossible. Like, when I first encountered the idea of it, I was like completely just like, what? That sounds so hard. But with sugar, I know you might not believe me, but once you get over that first 4 or 5 days, which is hard, it's actually easier than you think. I like cake. I like gin and tonics. I like wine. I like sugary things, but I don't crave it. I don't enjoy super sweet stuff. Whenever we go out for a meal, I'll sometimes be like, oh, I'm going to have a dessert because it's fun and nice. And then I'll eat it and be like, ugh, too sweet. Which if you told me I would be that person like 15 years ago, I'd have literally laughed in your face. Too sweet. What a load of crap that is. But honestly, it happens. So it is possible. Okay, so I'm just going to go through questions. So I knew there was a question up at the top, something about fructans, I think. So someone was asking, could it be the fructans in the gluten? Yeah, it could be. Could be the fructans. I don't know lots about fructans. The gluten, from the research, it's the gluten protein or the gliadin in the gluten that causes the problem in terms of how it impacts your intestinal lining and the inflammation. So I don't know loads about fructans, but yeah, could well be. Someone was asking, what milk can you use? So if you don't use cow's milk, there's tons of milks out there now. I went dairy free probably like 12 years ago because I had really bad diarrhea, and someone recommended it. And there was literally soy milk and that was it. But you can have oat milk, cashew milk, hazelnut milk, almond milk, hemp milk, rice milk. So many different types. I would recommend you just buy different ones and find the ones that you like. I make my own cashew milk because I like that in coffee. For ages I used to do almond milk. I generally would avoid soy milk because, as we talked about, it can be inflammatory. Oat milk is great in coffee shops. A lot of coffee shops will do oat milk as like a treat. Yeah, those would be my recommendations. Shirley, yes. Shirley recommend private testing. Yes, that's what we did with Shirley, who's here on the call. We did some private testing with her to help her get to the root of the problem. Because, yes, she was being fobbed off. You were being fobbed off by your doctor. Not nice. Not all doctors do that, by the way. I've had clients come to me that are so amazing. Like, they're so supportive, so kind. Like, I've had clients and they've come to me and their doctor's been like, yeah, of course we should check out your thyroid. Yep, I'm going to refer you to an endocrinologist. I think that makes loads of sense. So, you can just never quite tell. Okay, just checking all the questions. Okay, can you develop an intolerance after having a baby? I'm starting to think eggs are causing me bloating and constipation, and I'm hoping because I eat them every day. Yes, I can feel your pain with that. I eat eggs every day. So I at one point wondered if I had an egg intolerance, and thankfully I don't. But yeah, no, you can. Pregnancy, birth, can really change your whole immune system, impact your whole immune system. And at any point in your life, you can develop a food intolerance. Because really what we're talking about often with a food intolerance is when your gut lining, so if you think of your intestines as a tube, it has this single cell layer, when there's inflammation there, and a certain food causes, gets into your bloodstream or doesn't get digested properly, and therefore causes irritation in the gut, and the immune system remembers. The immune system remembers and will create maybe antibodies and defenses against, say, egg, or like with my dad, apples. Like all of a sudden he just became really intolerant to apples when he was like 60. That was because he'd been like on antibiotics permanently for like 5 years, which anyway, different story. But yes, it could well be. Eggs are a common food to be intolerant to. So it could be worth trying like a couple of days to see. And often with eggs, it's the egg white that's the problem. So some people find they're okay with eggs if it's really well cooked egg whites. But I would it's not as common as gluten and dairy, but I'd say it's probably the next most common thing is reacting to eggs, which would be a bit sad, Pauline. I would be sad as well. But it's worth a try. It might not be, but maybe you could just try a period of time and see if that makes a difference. Or you could try duck eggs. Some people don't react as much to duck eggs, but I mean, I don't know of many places that sell duck eggs. Actually, I know of one place in Glasgow, Locavore, sometimes sells duck eggs, but it's not like Tesco sells. I don't think Tesco sells duck eggs. Anyway, okay, and then Karen, you're asking, in your opinion, how much do you think medication like tamoxifen affects the thyroid. Okay, so certain medications can really impact the thyroid. Tamoxifen, that is to do, that's kind of like post breast cancer treatment, I'm pretty sure, isn't it? In terms of, yeah, okay, sorry, I just Googled it. I just wanted to check that I was thinking on the right. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know for sure. I'd need to go and look at the different databases that I use in terms of, because with my clients, I'll always look at the medication that they're on and the impact that's having, side effects, nutrient depletions, those kind of things. But it is a medication that affects your endocrine system. So there is the potential that it could be affecting your thyroid. I don't know exactly off the top of my head how that works in the body from a pharmacological perspective, like in terms of the how it flows through the body and what it does biochemically, if that makes sense, as a drug. So I couldn't say for sure, but there's some medications can really affect your thyroid for sure, especially if you've been on them long term. And a history of breast cancer or any type of cancer, if you've had things like chemotherapy, radiotherapy, or any kind of aggressive treatments, that can be a trigger for your thyroid as well, and can just slow things down or bring damage to your thyroid, especially if you say with breast cancer, if you were maybe getting radiotherapy. I know they're not radiotherapy in your thyroid, but it is in that same location. And chemotherapy in general is it's like a broad, well, there's lots of types of chemotherapy, but in general, it's like a broad spectrum, kill everything. It's like, if you don't kill, it doesn't kill you, then, but it can. So I can't give more details with that, but I could say it could be affecting your thyroid for sure, especially been on long term. But equally, it might not be, and it might just be the treatment from the cancer, like that kind of leftover. Also, because especially things like chemotherapy is so taxing on the liver, you often need to do a lot of liver support after having things like chemotherapy, because your body's just been through so much, or even things like surgery. Okay, yeah, trying the yolks first, or just the yolk, and see how you get on with that. That's what I gave to Millen. One of his first foods was egg yolks, because it's more digestible, and often when people are reacting, it's the white. It's a specific protein in the egg white, whereas egg yolk often is a little bit easier. And methotrexate. Sorry, why are drugs so difficult to say? Anyway, methotrexate, yeah, there is a lot of known side effects to that, unfortunately. It is a really intense drug, can have really great, it can be really life-giving in that it helps with all the horrible pain, but it has a lot long-term especially. And if you have been on it long-term, it's really worth getting that reviewed and looked at, Kate. If that's something you've been on for a really long period of time, just going and chatting to your doctor about that, because there is quite a lot of known side effects. And equally, but if it's helping you live your life and deal with the pain, brilliant. Because that is what it's for. But it's maybe something you just have to weigh up the pros and cons, really, don't you? Because there's side effects, but the pro might be that it really helps with your rheumatoid arthritis. So that is awesome, because rheumatoid arthritis can be grim. I've had a couple of clients and a couple of close friends that have had it, and there's loads you can do to support rheumatoid arthritis, loads, from a nutrition and diet and everything perspective, but it can be really not fun. Okay, so right, that is 15 minutes of questions. And make sure you book in your mini session as well. If you've not done that, if you this is really interesting, you want to take your energy further, you want to get a question, make sure you book in your mini session. That would be so much fun. Otherwise, thank you for joining me. I'm going to go because I need to flick the switch of my nervous system before I go to bed. Otherwise, I'll just be lying in bed so I need to go and have a hot bath or something. And ricking the headband tonight. Thanks. I think you mean rocking. Is because I did promise you that I'd wash my hair, but guys, I didn't wash my hair. I'm not gonna lie. So I put on a headband instead. Thank you for joining me. I really value your time. I know it's one of the most precious things that we can give is our time to things. And I really want to commend you for giving this time to yourself, to your body, to your cells, to your thyroid. If you take action on just one thing that you've learned from this workshop, your body and your future self is going to thank you so much. There's so much you can do. You don't have to tolerate feeling crap, but it just requires small, consistent actions. That's it. Thank you for joining me, Jane and Kate and Pauline and Karen and everyone else who joined, and I will see you soon. Sending you lots of love, guys. Bye.